What's going on? I had
Ladies and
everything
gentlemen,
perfectly set up,
ladies and gentlemen,
and this guy shows up and starts dropping it all. Hello, friends! Dork Discourse Nation, get up! It's Tuesday, baby, and it is the first Tuesday, first Dork Discourse after that banger of a premiere of The Rings of Power Season 2. And I love Alice's comment here. It looks like you guys are excited as well. I've seen a lot of good discussion going on here in the pregame chat, and I love Alice says the stream hasn't even started yet, and we've already managed to cover quite a bit. Yes, so much to discuss, guys. And of course, obviously, I know the majority of our audience is Star Wars fans, but we're in a Star Wars drought for the time being. But the timing couldn't have been better. With the end of one thing comes the beginning of something new, and boy oh boy, is this show feeling new, feeling fresh, feeling different right out of the gate in comparison to season 1. And dare I say, folks, we are nowhere near the same trenches that we were in when it came to fielding the hate and, dare I say, misery that some people were just trying to bring to the channel to bring us down with season 1. But I'll be honest, already this second season here is off to the races in a different stratosphere. So I'm happy to see more people giving the show a chance, and we're not fielding as many negative comments. Moderators, I thought we were going to be busier than we are. It is a beautiful day to be alive, to be a Lord of the Rings fan, Rings of Power fan. So that's what we're obviously going to be pivoting to. That's what we're going to be pivoting to. To fill the void here now that we don't have any Star Wars necessarily till December, but we got Lord of the Rings until then, baby. Yeah. So thank you all so much for joining us. Yeah. Alice, Charlie, Bird Church, Sean, Jason. I saw Anatar up in here earlier. Sal, Stanley's, Darnock. Let's get it. I feel like I'm definitely missing a few folks, but as people pour in, welcome.
Darnack?
Yes,
Did you say Darnack?
Yep. Yes, Anatar himself,
Mr. Crazy,
the Lord of Gifts, was up in the pregame, the early squad. So, yes, everybody, feel free to share your initial thoughts, because that's obviously what this is gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a perfect summary somewhere on the internet of season 1 walked, so season 2 could run, and literally we open season 2 with the answers to all of our Hallbrand, Adar, Sauron backstory questions, and then immediately cuts to literal horse running with the rings, and we get hit with the instant repercussions of the forging of the first rings right out of the gate. So incredibly hot start in episode 1. And the tone, and even in episodes 2 and 3, with Anatar and Celebrimbor being his little puppet, and everybody just slowly getting corrupted, and it's fantastic. And shout out to Charlie Vickers for an incredible performance. I mean, he was great in season 1. The ending of season 1, where we get the reveal and the scenes with him and Galadriel are fantastic, but he just takes it to another level so far in this season with his acting chops.
It obviously, it kind of makes me really wonder how his audition process went, because I imagine for a show of this scale, of this magnitude, they give you like mock sides prior to, you don't know fully what you're auditioning for, but they probably had to undergo the most in-depth, rigorous auditioning process for Halbrand slash Sauron slash Anatar. He's playing like 3 characters, but of course you only see like 1 and 0.25% of the second, when he's entirely Halbrand in season 1. And then, the reveal comes towards the tail end, so you see just a smidgen of him as Sauron there towards the latter half of the first season, but they had to audition. That's the police coming to get him because he's that good. His performance is that on fire. But I imagine casting that role could not have been. It's further a testament to like, wow, he earned this freaking part, because they have to obviously cast again. It's like 3 roles all in one, and I'm sure he had to prove that he could go to these depths to portray Sauron. And I'm only, of course, even more curious to see. They've dabbled a little bit before his transition to Anatar here, where they kind of show some introspective moments. Obviously, the name of his game is deception. You can't trust a word out of his mouth. It's all an act, all a orchestration. So it's like, what can you believe? We get these little kind of smidgens of, I don't want to venture to say vulnerability, but almost kind of some moments of atonement in the first episode, where when we get more of the backstory and we're privy to how Halbrand comes to take form, and you learn that he's confessing of all the terrible atrocities he's committed. It does beg the question, and I hope we get more of that kind of look at his character, but does he feel any sort of atonement, or that weight that he carries of having committed some of the worst acts imaginable and unimaginable?
I think the answer is no.
He doesn't,
because he keeps committing them.
Well, I don't know. It also strikes me the scene where Adar is,
Adar
is having a mini heart-to-heart with him. Having a heart-to-heart with him, describing his own imprisonment, that he, I was in your shoes. I know your pain. And, you see, I don't know what to call him anymore. Halbrand or Sauron. I still keep calling him Halbrand, in his form here, the human
Sauron.
form. But yes, I guess he really is just Sauron. As, Gil-galad has to say to Galadriel, because she still refers to him as Halbrand.
Yep.
He's like, don't you see, that was never a real person. That was always an act. But
he was always Venom. Always Venom.
At his core, yes.
Secretly Tom Hardy.
True.
Yeah.
But, as Anatar is describing his own peril as a servant of Morgoth, you see a tear roll down Sauron's, face.
Shout out Ricardo Martinez for subscribing.
Let's go. That, I imagine, can't be all part of the deception, part of an act necessarily. So I don't know. I'm obviously very entrenched in that performance. He's bringing it. Somebody mentioned thoughts on Elrond forever ago, but we've just obviously been going on a rant. And I have, what Aaron Yeager asks, what do you think about Elrond? Equally amazing performance, but I think the reason he's being especially hard on Galadriel, probably more so than anybody else, punishing her and having this reckoning with her being incredibly, gloves are off. Like, he's given it to her what she needs and deserves here, frankly, but it's not like she doesn't feel her own self-imposed guilt. But my theory is Elrond is taking it out on her especially, but more so it's coming from a place of projection, because he feels equally responsible, equally stooped. He was played as much as she was in season 1. The entire scheme to get him involved as a third party to access the Mithril and deal with the dwarves, he had his own intentions and thought he was going on his own accord. But the entire time, he comes to learn that everybody else, Celebrimbor, Gil-galad, they all knew what was actually there, and he was kind of just a pawn in unleashing it. So he was equally played. I don't think he necessarily has room to talk smack.
No.
So I think that's why he's being especially hard on her, and I don't know if that will come out, but I think he's taking it out and projecting a little bit, not necessarily to pin all the blame on Galadriel, but he, if anything, had an equal part to play in this. He was fooled into bringing and delivering the mithril that's responsible for all of this.
And Galadriel was calling him out right in the moment too. He was saying, literally, you failed to get the mass mithril from Casa Doom, right?
That's
like in
true.
the heat of the moment. But I think the heat of the moment, the elvish reaction, Elrond and Galadriel instantly like getting heated with each other, and the king having to calm them down and put some perspective. And he's like, we can't change the past. Here's the reality of the situation. Here's what you have to do. And ultimately, the wise leader elf, who I have no clue what his name is, Santa Elf, comes in and no, not the king, not Gil-galad.
Círdan?
Yes. Yeah. Ultimately comes back with the rings is because they realize what the situation entails at the moment. But the fact that everybody's so passionate and heated means that they care, and means that they all recognize that literally the worst thing that could have possibly happened has happened, which is Sauron has returned. He had some type of hand in the making of these rings, and then he disappeared, and we don't know what he's up to next. Shout out Alec Candler for subscribing.
Let's go.
So they're all basically coming to terms, and the fallout with literally the worst thing that could have happened, and how are we going to go forward and respond? And obviously, everybody's going to have differing opinions on what the best path forward is. But ultimately, someone's got to make the decision. King made the decision. Santa Elf made the decision. Círdan made the decision. And then we'll see what happens from here.
Yeah, I discussed it a little bit in my episode 1 reaction, and I talk about it more in my episode 2 commentary, because this is where Anatar, of course, or rather, still, Halbrand, Sauron in his disguise, as he finally sits face to face again with Celebrimbor and proposes the idea of forging some more rings for mankind, for the dwarves. And Celebrimbor kind of scoffs at it and suggests, like, men are so susceptible to corruption. And I almost laugh out loud, I think, during that portion, because, I don't know, I'm curious to hear what other people have to say about it and debate, the plausibility. Like, I feel like the elves, maybe they're not necessarily falling into corruption as we speak, at what we see of them, but I feel like they're fumbling. I feel like they are incredibly fragile right now, and they don't, in my opinion,
they don't know.
They're winging it. They don't know what the frick they're doing.
They know that there's that what Elrond's talking about of his corruption. They don't know. It could be true.
Yeah.
But then also what Galadriel's saying is that, what if they're not corrupted and we have the means to save our entire race, and we can stay and keep the elves in Middle-earth to help save the rest of Middle-earth? And so there's two sides, and Gil-galad recognizes that both could be true. Even if they're both true, the immediate problem is saving the elves and ultimately trying to save Middle-earth, which means they have to use the rings. So I think both of them are basically have a great shot of being right in their own heads, right? Which is why it's so torn.
But
you've got Gil-galad, who's got to make the decision as the king of the elves.
It's just a huge bargain, though. Like, to go in, they're basically like going in blindly into the dark, just absolutely winging it. And
it's are you gonna basically knowingly doom all of Middle-earth by leaving and going back to Valinor,
or take the risk?
There's a chance that you're gonna be doomed anyway, and Middle-earth is doomed anyway, but at least the elves will be there to fight alongside all of the other beings of Middle-earth.
I guess the reality is, if they've accepted that these rings are part of a larger plot and scheme that as coming from the malicious intent and hand of Sauron just orchestrating everything, I guess it is, if that can of worms has already been opened, then we might as well stick around to see how long we can ride the wave.
Yep, I think ultimately that's why Gil-galad in the moment took both sides, made that decision, and then why Círdan ultimately came back with the rings, is because he ended up being in that same boat as well. It's like we can't just take ourselves to Valinor, and basically we know Sauron is back. If the elves are gone, good luck Middle-earth, and they feel like they need to stay and help defeat Sauron.
I love how Anatar, of all people, says the elven rings are safe, I guarantee. But here's the thing, though. They were all very much debating, Galadriel will swear on her name that she never saw Halbrand slash Sauron tamper with the rings. He never had a physical, tangible hand in the forging process. She had eliminated him by then and intervened right before, he could have necessarily tampered with them. Elrond is not so quick to necessarily buy that, but he does handle the mithril, like we were talking about. He does, as, I didn't realize it because I was believing, like, yeah, technically he had pieced out. Perhaps, if this is necessarily part of a larger plot for him, he didn't get to follow through if he were to corrupt the rings or whatnot, or poison them or whatever. But then when we see, fast forward to episode 3, that is the final shot of episode 3, I believe, when they are forging the rings for the dwarves.
Mm-hmm.
And he interrupts Celebrimbor as he's about to place the mithril into the, forge. And Anatar himself, wants to do it and take it. So he does, but we know that he handled the mithril as well when he first met Celebrimbor and was explaining how you have to alloy it and whatnot. So he might not have been there when they were forged, but he touched the initial, ore. I don't know. It is interesting to see the elves put themselves on this pedestal. Like, if anybody should have this power, it should be us. But already that's feeding into, like, my precious of it all. Like, whether they know it or not, their hyperfixation, they all can't stop looking at it, thinking about it, Círdan, of all people, went from being like, I'll do it for free. I'll throw these things out for free. Just tell me when and where. He went from being on the verge of freaking ready to toss him into the sea, never to be seen again, and then was the first one to freaking put it on his finger. Like, that was so... I thought that was a little, like, presumptuous that he just put it on immediately.
Because I think he
of all people deserves it.
I mean, Elrond comes in, drops this bomb on him that Sauron is back, and he needs to destroy these ring. He has a nice, let's say, 15-minute little boat ride out. He's thinking about the pros and cons, going to the decision. Ultimately, he hesitates to hold it in, and then, whatever the reason,
force of nature. Yeah. Remember, there was a little.
Yeah, I know. And whether it was caused by the Valinor or Sauron or whatever, he recognizes. Ultimately, tricks him, convinces him that the right decision is to save the rings and keep the elves here to. Keep the elves on Middle Earth to help the rest of the beings there. TJB
Fox says season 1 walks that season 2 could run and maybe even fly. Yep. Fly, you fools. Yep. That's what's happening right now, truly. And I'm so glad that it has taken the darker turn, and it almost makes it hard to watch knowing the threat that they are up against, and already the odds are kind of like stacked against them. Of course, now that Anatar has infiltrated, it's so much harder to watch in ways that, I don't know, I think another reason this season already just feels more like it has its footing and it's kind of more grounded, and they can really like start, pedal to the metal, ramping things up. So many of the mysteries have already been resolved or addressed. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily when it comes to the stranger and his identity, but at least he can freaking talk now. Like, that already is a huge step up from where we meet his character in season 1, and we kind of have some guesses, some insinuation or hints that we can apply and, project on his character and whatnot to form some assumptions maybe. But, of course, the biggest question about, Sauron and whatnot, and all of season 1 was debating, is it the stranger? Is it Halbrand? Has he yet to show himself? Who has taken on the form? Who can you trust? So I do feel like in some ways... Not that served as a detriment to the first season, but it just leaves you begging so many questions the whole time, and it all kind of just boils down to you just waiting for answers for so long, and then you finally get them and it ends. Versus now we have way more freaking answers, so I feel like they can really just dial in and, operate with that versus setting up so much mystery. But it obviously paid off because the experience now of rewatching the first season and all of the deception the whole way through, like, you have new fresh ears for every word that comes out of Halbrand's mouth. Yep. Knowing the knowledge that you do know, and for Adar now as well, who was one of the most interesting and intriguing new characters in the first season, but again, so much mystery surrounding him as well. I just think, not that there were too many mysteries and open ends and, questions every left, way, and right, that, every week it just felt like we had more and more questions. Not that that was necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's like that was the exposition for this season to run, to really just go free now that so much of that has been addressed.
Yeah, well, they yeah, it was mysterious and vague and planting little seeds all season 1. But the first episode this season literally gave you a solid, satisfying answer to all of the seeds that they laid. At least in terms of Hallbrand and Sauron and the history and Adar. They literally gave you all the answers in the first episode of the season with their relationship. So I think it's fantastic. And then now that we have all those answers, we still have some open things like the stranger
and now the new foe.
And yep,
the dark
people,
wizard.
What's going on in Rune? We don't know. We don't exactly know how. We know that Adar is on edge, knowing that Sauron is potentially back.
I know, that's why
we know the dwarves are getting involved with the rings. Eventually, the men, the real men, not the Southland Morgoth men, but the Gondors and the Minas Tirith and Rohan, and where are all those men at? I mean, do they even exist at this point? Because I guess they're like thousands of years away from the Third Age and the men that we know there. But I mean, presume the men the men kingdom have to show up at some point, right? And get the. Don't they have 9?
They
Isn't
do.
It 3 elves, 7 dwarves, and 9 rings
They're
for the men?
They're repping the most rings. So
that's the Nazgul, right? Is all the men that get corrupted?
Yeah.
Isn't it 9 Nazgul?
So yeah, it's like where they lurking at.
Yeah. So prediction that just came to my head right now. We're 3 episodes in. We ended off with the dwarves getting the rings. Is the midpoint of the season the dwarves getting the rings? And then the second half of the season focuses on the men getting the rings? And then the end of this season is the forging of the One Ring at the end?
No, I feel like
and then season 3 is the absolute conquest?
I feel like...
Or is it going to be, this is the dwarf season of rings, first season was elf season of rings, third season is men season of rings, and then the fourth season is the One Ring conquest?
Sure, you have to remember, we still have 2 other seasons that they've confirmed, right? We know...
Is it?
I've heard that...
I'm going to look it up.
I was just about to look it up.
All right, you can look it up.
I've heard that we've had potentially 5 seasons in the chamber for this. I don't know. Somebody else definitely knows that. Fact check me. But I know at least 3rd and 4th season, if I'm not mistaken. Daddy Josh had asked if you could go into this show, be able to watch season 1 without knowing anything else that may have happened prior. I think you could, because the show sets up all the exposition and it integrates it into their dialogue and whatnot. So it gives you all the backstory you may need. But I will say, I do think things make more sense and are perhaps better to understand upon the second viewing. Like, I just think this show in general, the more I watch, the better it gets, the more like pieces you can put together, because it is a lot. There are a lot of different storylines and whatnot going on at once.
But there's a lot of stuff that, like, even if you've watched all the Lord of the Rings, all the Hobbit, I mean, yeah, you're more familiar with like the laws of Middle Earth and the rules and the lore of Middle Earth, but really plot wise, it's nothing. I mean, this happens before all of that, because the Hobbit and the Middle Earth, the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit are in the Third Age. This takes place in the Second Age. This show opens with a brief summary of the First Age, but like, I haven't read any of the books. I know nothing about the First and Second Age.
I read this one all thinking that it was going to be what this show was about, and then I learned they didn't get the rights to it, so it's like, well, but... So,
like, you can totally jump into the show having seen nothing Lord of the Rings of any kind, and I think you'll be fine. And I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, so everyone's confirming that there is a 5-season commitment, which I feel like for a show of this budget, the most... literally epic budget in all of film or television and streaming, I think. that makes sense. That they would lock it down and be like, all right, we're gonna foot the bill as long as we can take it to season 5. So that makes more sense. So if that's the actual timeline, there's no way I think the men are getting their rings in this.
Probably not.
But if they,
But like, I don't know what happens after the One Ring is forged. It's just the One Ring is forged, and then it's conquest and just like the huge battle with Isildur. And is it like quick and done? Like, is that just like a season finale type thing? Like, I don't know anything about the lore here. Like, how long is it all rings are created until they're destroyed? Like, what is that?
I imagine it's a pretty good period
it's not
of time.
really destroyed. It's attempted to be destroyed, and Sauron is destroyed. Like, what? I don't know any. I don't have any gauge for what that time period is. If it's very quick, then it could be that just the final season is we get to that. If it's very long, then I would think they would want to get to that point sooner, and then we see the impact that the One Ring has on all of Middle Earth, and the tragedy, and the conquest, and the war. Like, if that's a long period of time and there's a lot there, I think they would want to get to that point sooner versus building up over 4.5 seasons, and then the last few episodes of the final season, if it's season 5, is we finally get the One Ring, and then it's over. It's over right away. Kind of like the White Walkers in Game of Thrones. They build up 8 seasons of White Walkers, and then it's all over in one episode with the White Walkers.
Let's hope not.
And even House of the Dragon, winter is coming. It's all set up. It's the literal through line of the entire Game of Thrones legacy.
Don't spoil it. I know there's people in here who only just recently started.
Sorry if I'm spewing out Game of Thrones spoilers for people who won't. But
I think Bob could be on a good roadmap here. The season will be the fall of Eregion. Season 3, the fall of Numenor. I think that checks out. Season 4, the fall of Khazad-dûm. Season 5, the War of the Last Alliance, and the Nazgul will rise along the way. That makes sense, especially since, with 8 episodes per season, I think that's a good pacing, a good way to stretch it out. But my expectations are high going in. We already have 3 of an 8-episode season, which means after this week, folks, in T-minus 48 hours, for us, luckily, it drops at midnight Pacific time, so we'll see if I stay up and watch it, but it will be halfway through the season. And last season, we all know I'm not here doing math. We all know I'm not the one here in this relationship who does the mental math. But that leaves, after this week, 4 episodes left. And if they follow, hopefully, the same formula as season 1, episode 5, 6, 7, 8. Was it 5 or 6? It might have been episode 5. Udun, where they, that was like the best episode of the season.
Yeah, it was.
Where,
I think it was.
I think
Mount Doom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I think that was 5. And then the latter half is just like, it was like this mid-season epic climax. So I'm curious if the season will follow. I think obviously something's going to happen now that Galadriel and Elrond are on their way to Eregion, but will they get there in time?
Yeah.
I think shiz is going to hit the fan in that regard.
Yeah. Honestly, I forget where episode 3 ends off. Is that where it ends off? Where they're going to Eregion?
Yes, Gil-galad broke the news to Galadriel that Elrond was going to be leading the pack.
That's right. That's right.
But Alice, let's chat about this. Alice says, I'm sad that the eagle favored that nasty bloke. That made me sad. I feel betrayed. Listen, y'all. I don't think it did. I thought the eagle was showing up in defense of Muriel because it was after they had revealed the Palantir. By the way, Aarion, can he get his freaking daughter under control? That's a whole other situation. Anyway, the little freaking thief.
I mean, I don't blame her for being mad. She called him out. He got back from war. It was like, you've talked all this stuff, but you haven't mentioned your son's name once.
Yeah, but she didn't have to go and steal the... She didn't have to steal that. That's clearly not hers. She friggin' took it. Anyway. I'm also inclined to believe that she, is also being puppeteered in a way by Farazan and, his son and whatnot. Anyway, it was after they had revealed that, everybody was starting to backtrack and falter and starting to doubt Muriel, call her out. And that's when the eagle arrived. And I thought it was there in defense for her to be like, hey, everybody, shut the frick up. She's actually your rightful queen. And I swear, I don't think that eagle was freaking there for Farazan. I think he just hijacked that situation. He commandeered it.
Probably.
They saw that as an opportunity to be like, well, let's just say it's here for him. Because who else is going to... Eagle's not going to point. Eagle's not going to... yes, exactly. Anatar. This is exactly what I'm saying. The eagle actually favored the queen. Farazan just took advantage. Exactly.
I was expecting the eagle to just like pick him up and fly
I
off
wanted
with
him
them.
to.
So
You'll see.
I was like, what was the point of the eagle if the eagle just flew down there as an omen and then bailed?
You guys will see in my reaction that I think I said something like, I hope this eagle bites him or so. But no, he totally commandeered that, hijacked that for his own good. And, you know, you could see, he looked at his accomplices and they were just like now's our chance. It's here for Farazan. Like, it was not. So Alice, fear not. My headcanon is that eagle was freaking not there at all for him. And I saw some other fellow Tolkien nerds on Twitter making the same argument and making some fan art with the eagle and, you know, Muriel, the true actual heir to the throne. So how did I wasn't expecting this show to have the same freaking energy here, fighting for the throne, fighting for the rightful heir as freaking House of the Dragon. I thought that was over. No, it's just back.
We've got Sauron the Dark Lord in the flesh hanging out in the chat. Sauron goes, Sauron here. Zuko here. Do any of you have any questions for me? Sauron, I got a fantastic question. How do you have the power to jump from downtown Manhattan fighting Spider-Man to popping up in Middle Earth? Like, how does your Venom goo power jump through the multiverse like that? Also, are you Tom Hardy or are you Eddie Brock? Not Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy, but the Venom. Who was the actor who played Venom in Tobey Maguire?
Oh
Spider-Man?
My God, the guy from that 70s show. Yeah. Yes.
Ashton Kutcher.
Topher Grace.
Yes.
Not Ashton Kutcher.
Yes. Mila Kunis.
Topher
Are you
Grace.
Mila Kunis, Topher Grace, or Ashton Kutcher, or Tom Hardy? Which Venom are you? If you can divulge Sauron, the Dark Lord. Very curious. Very curious. Topher Grace. Thank you, Charlie. Yep, confirmed. Okay.
Big Star Wars fan.
Yes.
Big green flag. Yeah, no, I think that first 5 minutes of the first episode, you know, we both had been saying this, but as much as I loved all three of these episodes, they could have released just the first one and I would have been satisfied.
Oh, yeah.
I'm questioning why they chose to release 3 up front, if not for the sake of maybe coming off of a lot of the backlash and just premature, you know, against similar Acolyte treatment. The hate campaign that, you know, the show had received out of the get-go of people roasting it. You know, from the start, I had seen some people theorize, like, maybe the 3 up front was to kind of prevent that, to give people something to binge. So it's like, all right, you can formulate an informed opinion about the show, because we've seen freaking nearly half of it at this point. 3/8. So, you know, but if they had just released that first one, I would have still been satisfied. It was one of the strongest episodes in this whole show. Bird Church, thank you so much.
Bird Church.
Joseph Mall, yes, the legend, Uncle Benjamin.
That's right. I knew that Adar looked.
You knew that.
Hey, Adar.
He played Adar in season 1.
Hey, Adar. I knew that he looked familiar in season 1, but I never made the connection that it was Benjamin Stark in Game of Thrones. But I was like, I know that actor. And it's a bummer that he's not in season 2, because I thought he was great in season 1. But season 2 Ada, has also been great. So,
yeah, no, and I didn't even mention it at all in any of my reactions, except for maybe by the time I got to the 3rd or 2nd episode. But I felt like the transition between the 2 actors was so seamless. Also, sorry, I'm looking down. Somebody's idea to get food delivered while we were going live, and so I'm
it's fine.
Trying to coordinate.
You're stressing for no reason.
I'm not. But yeah, no, I thought the transition between their performances was like so seamless. It didn't seem very, like a huge stark contrast. Benjamin Stark. It didn't seem that was maybe intended. It didn't seem like an out of the blue, at all. And I think it was not that this was intentional by any means, but the fact that they introduced in the new opening scene, the first scene of the first episode, when you meet the, forward with Sauron, and you're like, wait, what? This isn't Charlie Vickers. What's happening? I was more fixated on that and trying to piece together, like, oh, this is a flashback, than I was fixated on Adar. So I think the fact that we meet the new actor, this new, rendition of him in a flashback anyway, that happens from thousands of years ago, and then you're more fixated on who is this mysterious Sauron and whatnot. So no. I think that helped to like ease the transition between actors. But frankly, like, I've never, when they recast actors in a show for whatever reason it may be, I obviously really love Joseph Maul's performance, and I don't know if we ever necessarily got a definitive reason as to why, if there were scheduling conflicts or whatnot, of why he was recast, but it's not like they owe the audience that answer anyway. But as much as I loved his performance, I don't feel any, major difference, and I'm actually really excited for this new actor to. It's such an intriguing role anyway, and there was still so much mystery to him, so I think it was an okay time versus if they were to recast it with one season left. Unless this is going to be a theme and they recast a different actor each season for Adar, but I don't think that's the case. But yes.
Do you swear your allegiance to Adar?
All right, I'm gonna go take our food before somebody steals it.
All right, I'll hold down the fort.
Can you? And not just do Adar impression?
My orc impression? Hey, Adar.
Charlie, don't thank me. Thank Bird Church. Bird Church can get full credit for that one. Because I recognized that it was a new actor this season, and I knew that the actor from season 1 looked totally familiar. But I never put 2 and 2 together that it was Uncle Stark. So, yeah, overall, we have a fantastic start to the season, I think. And we're in for a treat for the rest of the season. Solid British impression, Tom. Thanks, Bird Church. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm just replicating our boy who got slaughtered by the warg, in the season so far, which I forget his name. He's the one who betrayed, the lead betrayer of the Southlanders and put the sword in the thing and unleashed Mount Doom. And then he gets lit up by that warg when Sauron plays him. So I'm just impersonating whoever that clown is, whoever that Woldrig, the pile of warg food now.
Do you swear your allegiance to Adar?
Yeah, I swear Tom would have made a great voice actor in another life, and I still tell him he should pursue it because he's great at impressions. Darnox says, poor Celebrimbor, I feel sorry for our precious master. It pains me especially, y'all, because the route that Sauron / Anatar now is taking to get to him, to like pluck at his heartstrings with Celebrimbor, is by praising him and showering him with all of this validation for his craft, his life's work, his passion as an artist and a craftsman, and as an artist myself, like, to see him and his vulnerability in that moment when he starts weeping and he's like, are you sobbing over that? Yeah. Like, at the thought that his work could garner such perfection and magic. To see that...
It
yes,
did
I know. But to see him plucking at his heartstrings through that route, targeting the fact that he is a master craftsman and this is his life's passion, it's just, the artist in me is like, that's so cruel. That's so mean.
To take advantage
because,
of
yeah, if you were to tell me that you liked my art, my knees would buckle. I'd be like, wow, I owe you my firstborn child. Thank you. Like, that's how it is.
Speaking of Cat's art. if anyone doesn't know, Kat is an artiste. And if you have any dreams of owning some art of your own, go to kathleenlasalle.com and you can submit a commission request to have Kat here
I'm backed
create
up
an
right
own
now.
custom
Holy
piece
frick,
of art.
I am backed up
There's
right
also
now.
some prints of existing stuff out there for
Well,
ordering.
Let's actually pitch, somebody, the other business manager of this channel here, y'all, has suggested that we maybe do some Lord of the Rings themed artwork here to promote alongside. I would actually love to do an ad art piece to promote alongside our Rings of Power reactions. So
Do a
leave
piece
some
of Adar kneeling to Sauron.
leave some
And Sauron shanks him with the crown. Sorry.
leave some suggestions for what you guys might like to see. Any Lord of the Rings inspired pieces here that coincide with Rings of Power and whatnot, Sauron. Leave some suggestions because I don't know what the frick to do, but I would definitely be interested.
Ooh. Slack broken helmet Sauron, and you see Halbrand's face underneath it.
But
Maybe.
true.
Or you
That's
see
too
Venom.
similar to
You
all my
see
Star Wars
Venom goo underneath.
Oh wait, Alice had already. That's right. Alice had given a suggestion last week to do Galadriel on her horse, riding her Aragorn and Arwen, holding hands in the forest. Frack, that would be a beautiful one. Anatar, Sauron. My Cat Zuko print is one of my fave purchases. Thank you so much, Bird Church, and that's one of my favorite prints, honestly. Some of the prints, like, I'll just give you guys a little mini backstory into.
We can see the
stop
exact.
showing things right now because our printer is broken. We don't have
I'm
a
just
means
saying,
to print right
Here's
now.
the Zuko piece, if anyone was curious.
Tom's plugging
Who
when we
hasn't seen it?
actually have a broken printer at the
Yeah,
moment.
well, we'll figure it out. It'll force us to figure it out. So,
Anyways,
that worst problems to have.
some pieces I feel like come out better in print form than others. So like when I got that Zuko print, I was like, dang. I was actually really happy about this. Same with the Acolyte one with May and Master Soul. That one came out of the printer real crisp as well. So yes, the Zuko one is one of my personal faves too. We actually, I forget what piece we demoted to put it up there on the wall. What did we take down? Oh, I know, the ritual piece I think was up there. With
yes.
them all,
Yep. Yeah, it was. Where is it?
I don't know where we put it.
Yep. Oh, this one. Yep.
We relocated. Anyway, plugs aside, do you have any poll ideas to send us out for the evening? Because I've been commandeering the poll the past
Do
few
you
weeks.
swear your allegiance to Adar?
Like,
Yes or no?
do it. I dare you. I dare you.
I'm not gonna make that the poll.
I dare you.
That's a stupid poll.
No,
That's
it's
a dumb
not.
poll.
It's an interesting premise to promote to people. If you were in freaking Middle Earth right now, and those were your options, fight and possibly die, or join Adar and maybe live, but also possibly die if you take even the slightest bit of a delay in bending the knee, as we saw. That one poor soul wavered for a second too long.
He hesitated a little too long.
And they got a little bit gutted.
Well, half of the Southlands bent the knee to Adar, so
That's why I'm like, it's not crazy to ask. 50% of their troops.
then it's a 50-50. But we have the perspective of the entire show. So if we're gonna side, if the options are at the time that half of the Southlanders made their choice, going with Adar or holding up in the keep at the top of the hill, risking Adar invasion, that's different. But now, as a Brit, I proclaim Tom now an honorary Brit.
That is a very specific British dialect, though.
It's Tuesday, ain't it?
I said that once on the pod, and I swore to them I would never do it again.
No, that was more Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Tuesday.
What a ball.
What a ball. Tuesday, ain't it?
All right.
Alright,
That's rich coming from.
I'm gonna lose my honorary Brit accolades if I keep
If you don't come up with a
making
poll,
stereotypical.
Oh, bloody hell.
You're spiking the microphone. It's probably hurting people's ears.
Sorry. Sorry.
If you don't come up with a poll, I have one.
Okay.
This goes back to our debate.
Ah, that's good.
If
That's
I
good.
botch their names, sorry.
The spelling. Yeah, I don't know.
Here we go. Assume
Hmm.
positions.
Hmm.
Who did the eagle favor? Muriel or Farazan? Farazan the phony, if you ask me, but don't let that change your mind, influence your decision. But in my humble opinion, I thought he was totally there for Muriel. I thought that scene was gonna go an entirely different way, and that everyone was gonna back the frick off and bend their knee to her and realize, oh shoot, we've been doubting her for nothing. But that just would have been too easy now, wouldn't it? But listen, Numenor's gotta fall into the ocean somehow, so if it does it under Farazan's rule, uh, you know, I
Yeah.
won't question it. This is just the start, the first little domino in the downfall of them slowly sinking into the ocean. So this, I think, is the first catalyst that will just summon that fate for them. That's my opinion, and so far everybody else is in agreement. I see 26 people watching though and only 13 votes.
Yeah.
But if you have no idea what we're talking about and you're here anyway, which I know is the case for a lot of you guys who sometimes just silently watch, so I know many of you guys will be like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm just here anyway.
No.
So if that's the case, I am not targeting you. You can choose whoever you want though. Don't let me influence your decision. But yeah, I figured that would be the case. I thought that eagle was there for her. So
Yeah, I mean, clear majority there.
yeah, Farrah doesn't like the same thing Eagles likes. It was looking at Muriel. Exactly.
Yeah.
After our discussion, my opinion has changed, and I'm very thankful for the obvious things I didn't notice. No, Alice, you made a good observation in the pregame chat that I was reading along with that I never picked up on or necessarily noticed or interpreted either, which was the suggestion that Arondir, frickin' my favorite character, could actually be Theo's father. And that, Bronwyn obviously never would have, which that RIP, not to spoil anything, but I cried. Yeah, I never thought of that he secretly could actually be Theo's dad.
Why would he?
He'd been there for
Not
like
confess.
70 years. Because that obviously wouldn't be a good look. That obviously everybody was already frowning upon Bronwyn.
I didn't even think about
that thought never freaking crossed my mind. Like the entirety of season 1. Alice, I'm not kidding you. This theory never occurred to me until you said this.
But Theon. Great. Reek. Caleb Overton, shout out for subscribe. He has a line of dialogue in season 1 where someone point blank asks him, like, did you ever know your father? Like, doesn't Theo say, like, no, I never met him? Or doesn't someone say, no, I never met him? Or no, I never knew him?
He was talking to that kid who Waldrig eventually sacrifices to prove himself.
Waldrig.
Do you swear your allegiance?
You swear your allegiance to Allah.
Yes, that kind of bratty kid who then you feel bad for him. But, that kid had been pestering Theo, I think suggesting, you don't even know your dad. He left. And Theo defends and say, like, he didn't leave. And then he's like, well, where the frick is he? So, I think the insinuation is Theo never did know who his father was. Dork Discourse rules. Thank you, Durotan.
Shout out to you, Durotan.
Maybe we'll put that on some merch. Best, oh my god, what is the word I'm looking for right now? I can't think of it.
The general flow of the show is like good 60 to 7% insightful, back and forth dialogue, a good solid 15 to 20% of just pure nonsensical tangents and shenanigans and impersonations. And then, 5 to 10% just an all around great time hanging out with you guys. So
Lord Val is the one who is Anatar. I was curious if this is somebody we already knew who was just disguised for the time being. Lord Val, what's up? But also now Anatar. I love it. That's amazing. Thank you for revealing that, because I was curious. I was like, who could this be? Theo wouldn't know, and I think it wouldn't be in his best interest if his mother had told him, that Arondir had been his father. Yeah, it wasn't. She already was under the watchful eye of everybody judging, her relations with the elf and whatnot. That was already quite frowned upon. So it would have been in all of their best interests to not allude to that. But it's right out of the gate. It's already very obvious that Arondir and Bronwyn have something going on when we meet them in season 1. So. And he had been there for 70 years, so the time frame, checks out that he'd been watching over those lands. So,
Anthony, great question. Slim Shady Nazgul was resurrected. Thoughts?
Oh,
Great question. Eminem did make a reappearance
that's me.
in season 2. So will the real Slim Shady continue to be a prevalent force in the show?
I do think
Slim Shady's just a pawn, though. They revealed that.
That's true.
That Marshall is literally a pawn. How many other names can I think of?
What the
Slim
heck?
Shady,
Oh my God.
Eminem, real name Marshall,
Stop.
Detroit Lions superfan.
Jesus.
Has made a reappearance. Is the stranger Gandalf? That's what I think. Personally, I think it is Gandalf.
I know.
With the snarkiness and
I can't
everything.
stop thinking
And the
about
butterflies. I think that they definitely set some serious teases that it is Gandalf. Slim Shady, no clue. Is the rune guy? I know your theory was that that's.
I don't say it. Do not say it, because I don't say it in my. I don't want to put it into the ether if I'm wrong, so I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
I have a theory. You guys will see in my reaction. I feel like there is an obvious answer, but I'm like, this might be too obvious and I'm just stupid. I have a theory, but I am not going to speak it into the ether about who this new dark wizard is. Y'all know I am infamous, notoriously poor at making predictions, so I'm just going to spare
I feel like you're
myself.
actually better at it than me.
No.
I feel like I'm
No.
like 1 for 79.
Well, because you just get carried away. You predicted the entire plot of Kenobi, so you get a break for that.
That's true. I did. To toot my own harm, I did, and I'm wearing a shirt.
Yes.
Nailed Kenobi.
You
So
did.
I will.
You get a
I
pass.
appreciate the credit for that.
Forever.
Mace Windu did not show up in the Book of Boba Fett finale, though, so botched that one a little bit. Mace Windu still has not shown up in anything, and we talk about Mace Windu every single Star Wars show. So, Mace Windu is my serious kryptonite right now in terms of predictions. But
Anyway, I'm going to end our poll there. We're probably going to end things a little bit early tonight, folks, because, like I said, somebody thought it would be a good idea to order dinner that's now getting cold. So we're going to wrap it up here this evening, but what a great conversation.
blame me.
It was your idea. Of course, the one night that we were like, yeah, it can take an hour, which is how long it usually takes to get Uber Eats in the city of LA, especially this time of day, peak rush hour. They somehow magically, they teleported it over here. So the one night that we need them to take their sweet time, they decided to be quick. But thank you guys for joining us for this more abbreviated version of Dork Discourse this evening to ring in the next season here, new season 2 of The Rings of Power, which I'm happy to see that everyone seems to be pretty much unanimously enjoying right now. And I think things are only going to get better from here on out. So stay tuned. I am actively... all day leading up to this was editing my episode 2 reaction, and we'll hope to have that in episode 3, if I can edit at the speed of light, maybe posted by tomorrow, in anticipation. Obviously, I gotta clear my hard drive for Thursday to watch episode 4, so stay tuned for those reactions, even though I spoiled quite a lot of my commentary tonight, but that's alright. We had quite a lot to discuss and talk about, so thank you guys for showing up. For all my Star Wars friends here who have no idea what to do with Lord of the Rings, or no idea what that whole franchise is about, or that universe. I'm a Metallica fan as well. Let's go, Anatar. Let's go.
Nice.
They got Metal in Middle Earth.
Nice.
But yes, for all of our Star Wars OGs who have no idea what the flip we've been talking about for the past hour, thanks for hanging out regardless. We'll probably be covering, this series for the next 5 weeks or so here on the pod, but after that, it's free reign. There's other shows coming out, though, that we might be discussing later this summer. And actually, it's fall. Happy frickin' September, everybody. It's actually not fall. It's
Not
about
quite.
to be 100 degrees here in LA this week, so it is not fall yet. But for those who celebrate, happy September.
Yes.
We will see you guys again very, very soon.
Shout out to all of you. Bert Church, thank you for the honorary indictment not indictment. What's the word? Indictment is a negative thing. What's a positive spin? What's a synonym?
Indoctrination.
Indoctrination. Yes. Thank you for the honorary indoctrination as a Brit.
Oh,
Honored.
God.
I'm humbly honored. The rest of the household here, meaning my dear wife here, does not really appreciate when the British or Australian or Irish, Scotch, any of the accents come out. So I'm glad that you get some enjoyment out of that. Also, one final question before we leave.
What?
We know that other dwarves are presumably going to show up, other dwarf lords, to claim the other 6 dwarven rings, right? Who are they going to be?
We'll find
The
out.
chat
maybe this
has
week.
some great ideas.
We might find out this week in T-minus 55 hours, as
Dwayne
you
the
say.
Rock Johnson,
Oh my God.
John Cena,
Our food's getting cold. So on
Dave
that note,
Bautista,
we'll see y'all next Tuesday.
Joey Chestnut the Goat.
Thank you guys
see?
so much for
Joey
watching.
Chestnut the Goat.
Hope you
Great
guys have a
staff
great rest of your day, night, morning, evening, 3 a.m., wherever you may be. And we'll see you guys again very soon. And I'm going to get out of here now before he can commandeer the end of this. Bye, friends.
Now there's Britain flags in the chat. All right,
Oh, God.
Guys,
You're
I'm honored to be an
honorary.
honorary Brit, but you can't be dropping England flags in the chat before American flags. We can't be doing that. We can't be doing that.
All right. Bye, friends.
See you later.